Ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between, it is Debate Sensei CEDA edition, where we talk about things relevant to competitive debate for the Cross-Examination Debate Association. I have with me the Director of Debate at California State University, Long Beach, Deven Cooper. Thank you, Deven.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So this episode, we are talking about the Northwestern tournament. It is... what is it called? The Owen L. Coon Memorial Debates at Northwestern. And it was just it was just a few weeks ago. Mid-September, right?
It was the 15th through the 18th.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's start with this tournament. What is significant about just this tournament in general?
It is the season opener, or it's been deemed a season opener for open policy debate. And so this is like the first tournament that we all come together and we figure out who is in the terrain of who's going to be the most competitive teams. Sometimes it's not always predictive of who is going to be standout teams at Northwestern. Sometimes people don't do well at Northwestern, but they'll start to do well in the middle of the season, particularly like Wake Forest and like Harvard and other tournaments like that. So I think that this is just one of the initial times we get to see what all the arguments are and who are the standout teams at this point. But yeah.
Okay. I also noticed that it's like a hybrid tournament that some people are joining online.
Yeah, a lot of tournaments are now being more hybrid because they understand like the cost issue, as well as like sometimes people could be in areas where there's storm or bad weather, things of that nature. So
yeah. Did Long Beach went face to face?
Yeah, we went.
All right, nice, excellent. So I noticed that there's 101 entries. Is that was that the same? I forget what the entry was last year, but
it was close to that last year. I don't think it was 101. I think debate largely is starting to come back into the swing of things after the pandemic and the year after that. So yeah.
Okay. We could probably look that up pretty quick, actually. But let me see here. Owen Memorial from 23. What is the entries in that one for the open division? Oh no, it was a little bigger last year, actually.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was 120 entries.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know.
I wonder why was it bigger last year?
I don't know. But
well, I think I can see some teams. Some teams graduated. Some teams did not compete in person. Yeah, because I feel like the entry for Binghamton was a little bit higher last year. The entry for Fullerton was higher. I think Emory had like a higher entry as well, and Harvard did as well. Houston did as well. Yeah, so there's like a lot of teams that did not. Also, I think Michigan had more teams last year. So yeah.
Are there any noticeable new additions or omissions? Like, are there any teams that just didn't come this year? Do you know? I don't even know if you figure that out.
I feel like West Georgia, or I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
West Georgia. Let's go down here and take a look here. West Kentucky, but West Georgia.
Wait, there's one West Georgia team. I think last year it was 2.
Okay. Yeah, last year was 2.
I think.
Oh, there is one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Western Kentucky brought more teams this year. Yeah, they brought more teams. Let me see. I feel like.
It seems like it's the same teams, but they weren't bringing as many this year as they were last year.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of what it is. I don't think there's a lot of newness, like unless they're like people who are like freshmen on those teams.
Right. I need
Yeah.
to do that analysis. Put that into AI or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think Northwestern last year only had 2 teams entered. This year they had 3.
Mm.
So it's like they're adding people gradually, I think. But some people have graduated, so that's another thing.
Uh-huh. All right. So there's a fairly small JV entry though, huh? There's only
Yeah, that's kind of always the case because
yeah.
like sometimes, you know.
Okay. Okay. And let's take a look at. So we have 100 teams. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong division here. What was the break to? Go bracket.
Just doubles, I believe.
Dubs. Yeah, it looks like it was dubs. Okay. Well, that's pretty good, right? About a third of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Um, was it a clean break? I don't have that page open. I don't know if you know where they pull
Not
it.
sure.
Um, let's see who we had. I like comparing this to the last year one. Go bracket. Yeah, you know what? I'm even just gonna kind of share my screen. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. Yeah, this is last year. This is this year. So at the number one spot last year we had Georgetown, and this year we got Kansas. Oh, West Georgia's nice. They were in there. Okay. Who? I don't know. I'm just trying to glance at this. Who's the big break? It looks like Kansas is probably the big break on this one, huh? Man.
Oh, we're breaking a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Okay. We see Long Beach in there.
Yeah, but we got taken out by Kansas and doubles.
Yeah. Well, it's tough too. I mean, I think that this partnership is just kind of getting used to each other, right?
Yeah,
They're
but
kind of figuring it
also
out.
I kind of made some judging decisions that weren't the
Okay.
best. But whatever.
Um. Okay. There was the breaks. Uh. What about? Okay. So the overall. Let's go back to the not the final places, but doubles. Boom. 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 Oh. Okay. So records go down to 32. Oh, they don't have it numbered, huh?
No.
Oh man. Okay, so I'm wondering where that break is on that one. If anyone missed on Speaks or if anybody made it on Speaks. I don't know.
Well, it was mostly 5s.
Mostly fives. There wasn't any fours that got in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there might have been a couple people that missed on Speaks, huh?
Yeah, quite a few. But
Quite a
I mean,
few.
it's an 8-round tournament, so it's mostly 5s.
Yeah.
It's 5s. Yeah, I think it's mostly 5s. That I don't think any 4s got in because that's 4-4. There's no
But
way.
it was Western Georgia was. Oh no! Look at that. Western Georgia was the last seeded, and there they are, right there. The
Yeah,
number 5. Boom. Got. Oh, so it was a clean break. Looks like.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Now, any of these teams that missed their break round, any do you notice any of them? They're kind of like, oh, you know what? They're you got a little background on them about like we should.
I think NYU is a pretty good team.
Okay.
And they probably didn't get to their break round. I think uh I'm not fully sure about all of them,
Okay.
but I think that was like NYU is a pretty good team from this bunch that I can see so far.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I think that also this Baylor LC team is pretty good.
Okay.
Well, I think the Fullerton team is okay.
So
I
it
think
looks like, yeah.
their new partnership as well, but
So it looks like after the number of prelim wins, it's by alphabetical. So this
yeah,
isn't necessarily in any other order.
yeah, it's not in order. But I think George Mason DF is a good team as well.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just like a thing where we just had like people that just didn't make it, which
Yeah.
is happens at 8-round tournaments. Like,
Oh man, my senior year, I think I missed breaking on speaks or missed my break round like 2 or 3 tournaments in a row. It was very frustrating, very frustrating. So, all right, let's take a look at the brackets here. Okay, so Kansas not only is breaking just a big old load of teams, but they also got the number one seed at this tournament. Tell me
and
about the
speaker.
team.
I don't know too much, but I know that one of them was in the final round of the NDT last year.
Okay.
So they have a bit of reputation going into it that gives them a
Good.
bit more of a advantage when it comes to debate rounds. So, that's one major
Yeah,
thing.
and they took the whole tournament too, huh?
I mean, yeah, they're a great team. Like, and I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the final rounds of the tournaments to come are mostly going to be them and the other person, the other team they went against, which is Emory GH. But
Emory
it's still
GA.
early in the season, and yeah.
Okay, but at the number 2 seed we got Harvard. Harvard break any other, or is it just that one team? Looks like it's just that one team. Is Harvard GY? Is this the same or half of one of the Harvard teams from last year?
Half.
Half. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Did the other half graduate?
Yep.
Oh, right. OG. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. OG is Oh, this is the one from last year. Yeah. OG
Yeah.
is OG is the team that of Oge, and so she graduated.
Okay. Okay. So congratulations to them as well. Looks like Wake Forest is doing pretty well. Yeah. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Wake Forest. That's a pretty good break right
Yeah,
there.
they had like a lot of teams that came too.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had a pretty big entry but they also broke a few. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and then who else? Emory is always. They got 3, 4 breaks out of that one, so I think they came in second. Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit about were there any upsets in this first go round here?
Us.
Us. Oh yeah.
Us.
So first off, the initial seeding that you're getting, was there any upsets in the prelims?
Well, yes, I think us as well against Kentucky AM. I think all the rest of them were like good debates.
Yeah.
I think particularly that round was an interesting round.
Okay.
Where there was some things, but I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I just think that it probably should have had an opposite decision. But then again, I didn't watch the round, so I don't really know. But I just know what the RFD was, and the fact that there was a perm that was voted for that was not extended. But whatever. So it happens. We still love the judge that judged us, and we'll still continue to have them. But yeah.
So I am looking at a Kentucky v. Georgetown doubles, and Kentucky is seeded 21 and Georgetown is seeded 12, and Kentucky picks that up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an upset, or was the?
I don't really know who that Georgetown team is, but but Kentucky in general has really good coaches, so I would say that they probably were prepped really well for that situation. But yeah.
They also pick up over Binghamton, who is
that was an upset, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not a
Because
bad.
that's the CEDA champion.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Well, so that
And
looks
also
like
they were ranked 5, and Kentucky was 21.
right, right, and so that seems like one a fairly standout.
That was a nice Cinderella run they had there.
Good. Okay. Well, nice, nice for them, and then that might help at other tournaments now that they've gotten a little bit of credibility. But it looks like they weren't able to overcome number 4 with Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Michigan. Michigan had a few. Oh, Michigan State. I see. A couple Michigan State. This Michigan BP had a pretty darn good run too. Do you know?
Yeah, they're one of the top teams as well.
Okay.
I think as a freshman and a person who's like a junior, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, are there? Would you identify any standout debaters? So those were kind of standout teams, seeing how they were doing stuff like that. But maybe debate pairs or individual debaters that at least kind of asserted themselves early on, or they had a breakout performance or anything like that.
I mean, I think a lot of the people that have breakout performances lost in quarters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they had like a really good showing in prelims, but I think most of the K teams lost in quarters.
most of the K teams. So who is this? I'm looking at not Kansas, Wake Forest, Kentucky, Michigan, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Emory, Harvard. Okay. Which of those? Okay.
Harvard is a K team.
Harvard is a K team. Okay.
Mhm.
Is Georgetown also?
No.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember them as much as possible. Okay. Do you think it has anything to do with the topic, or is this a common thing at like early tournaments where
I mean,
difficulty?
the topic sorry. I think the topic is one that is allowing a lot of traditional teams to pivot particular narratives about, oh, climate change doesn't have like a race, class, or gender. It affects
Yeah.
everybody, and some people more directly. And also, low income people suffer from climate change issues. And it's just like kind of like that. And just like saying that like these policy solutions that are steeped in things like the carbon tax or the cap and trade is
Yeah.
like the only way to solve a lot of climate crisis. And so I think that that becomes like a larger narrative for a lot of these teams to talk about that in that way, and a lot of judges are buying it. But I think that a lot of people that are doing more critical arguments need to assert more of like the offshoots of how these policies will have an effect on lower income or people of color.
Okay. Okay. Um, who are there still some intact teams that had a pretty good run at this tournament? I'm looking at Dartmouth, BC. Are they the same team as last year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so how I don't know, well, like what would you say about that team this year as compared to where they were last year?
I think they're performing a little bit better
Okay.
as of right now. They're a pretty good team.
Okay.
And I think that, they're a team that I judge sometimes, and I think they're good, very talented.
Okay. Okay. Um all right. So let's talk about maybe and you judged at this tournament, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All 8 rounds.
All 8 rounds. Okay, well then I'm going to ask you
And the doubles.
some of the stuff that you heard, and not only heard in your rounds, but heard from the chatter between rounds as well. For starting with like, so what's the popular case? What's
Carbon tax, cap and trade.
carbon. Is there another AF?
There is.
Okay.
People might consider them as untopical, but that is primarily all carbon pricing AFs are literally different variations of carbon pricing is the thing that people see as most predictable.
Yeah.
And it's putting like penalties on emissions is like the main thing with a market-based instrument, of course.
Right.
But some teams have been doing things that people might see as untopical, and but the thing is, I think that like the traditional teams tend to read those untopical asks against K teams because they, are not going to really go for T. But the problem is just that. And so in a lot of these other apps, you'll see that there's like literally a strict adherence to carbon pricing.
Right.
Just to know.
Okay.
I think people have been more,
Okay.
They've been more willing to be more untopical against K teams. Yeah.
Okay. And so if they're running non-topical apps, what's a popular one that they go for? Or did you hear about one at all?
I mean, there was one that Michigan ran, which was like about incentivizing nuclear fusion reactors.
Okay. Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
and like trying to decommissioning the old ones. And so that's the other thing too, is that a lot of these teams are trying to say that they shouldn't have to defend certain things because of durable fiat or because the idea that they can fiat those things away. And I think that's largely bullshit. Like, you can't sit up and say we're going to incentivize and create this transition to like nuclear fusion instead of fission plants and not have to advocate the issues that come with decommissioning the fission plants.
Oh, okay.
Because when you decommission those things, it takes years to remediate and clean up and recreate and turn those things over to become another thing. And so I think that my issue is that a lot of these K teams, including mine, are not digging into the literature and talking about like how a lot of the environmental racism stuff that goes down is on the backs of people of color and poor people that don't have the political rights or the political power or money to say not in my backyard. Right? Because let's be clear, a lot of these plants and these reactors or whatever the fuck you want to build, they're not being built in places like Beverly Hills, Calabasas, Westwood, right? All these places. And so I think that the energy that a lot of these teams are bringing to this is kind of like, it's like they're debating as if these are just like a game. Like, and I get it. A lot of people see debate as a game, but the real life consequences for people that live in certain areas that are people are making arguments for saying, oh, well, this green energy and this green tech is good for everybody. It's just like the people that are most hit and have to be cited on where they cite to put these places, like these nuclear reactors, these recycle facilities, and these green tech places like for production is not in those rich areas. And it's just like, if we're really going to talk about these things about climate change and how people are affected, like, let's stop trying to act like, oh, we put a carbon tax on these like rich companies, it's going to like make this whole new turnaround of how we look at climate. That's bullshit. A lot of these judges are just like voting for that shit as if it's like really going to make a difference in the lives of people that have to live in places where concentrated asthma, cancer, birth defects, and all these things are happening. It's just not true. And a lot of those people that are judges don't look at that shit because they never really had to experience that or live in an area that is affected by that.
And so you start off by saying that the people running the non-topical apps like the nuclear fusion, right? Do you have the cards cut for all these arguments, or is that take a little bit of time to get up to that point
to go against them?
Yeah. All the arguments that you're saying. Is your stuff cut for that, or is this more like what you're laying out to prepare for future rounds?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different because I've taken the classes on environmental justice and on environmental conservation and stuff like that. And so I know about the history of the environmental justice movement and all the different things that go along with that. And so for me, I can't like put that into my students' heads.
Right.
But I know about those things, and I know about just doing a quick read about certain things, especially with nuclear energy, the way that that has had disparate effects on people of color in indigenous lands, like Yucca Mountain and stuff like that. Like we can know about where this stuff is going and how it's being stored and how it's being concentrated. And so when you say like, oh, we're just going to make this new version, like we're not going to do nuclear fission because it causes all this and that. And it causes like, people want to attack it for like, because it could be a nuclear plant that's production of nuclear weapons. And so nuclear fusion doesn't really have the same amount of issues, and there's less waste, even though there's still waste.
Yeah.
And there's also like, the waste doesn't last as long as like, other nuclear fission waste. And so, people want to say, well, this is a cleaner version of nuclear energy. But that cleaner version is still not being placed in communities that have money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but because this tournament is so early, is it frustrating, like knowing these arguments and not being able to kind of like?
Well, it's frustrating because I've told my students about them, and I've also put a lot of articles inside of the Dropbox that has a lot of these things in it. And so like I would love to like literally jump into my students' brains and just like be able to just spread all the knowledge that I have about this stuff and how the bullshit that a lot of these teams say things like, oh, we're not going to extract a whole lot of stuff in the global south. We're going to do more domestic extraction. We're not going to like, make people subjected to XYZ. And it's like, it's a lie. It's lying. You're lying. But the problem is that the students are not always equipped to look at the studies and look at the things that people have been exposing about these things to make it into an argument and a debate that judges will really understand. Because these judges are just like, oh, climate change is a crisis. It's coming. It's going to destroy all of us. It's going to kill us. Forget all of the minutia around it. And that type of mentality is literally the same type of mentality that a lot of the politicians have when they're thinking about these policies and implementing them, that they don't give a fuck about the people who are going to have to face the brunt of that rapid green transition. Because that rapid green transition is not going to happen on the backs of rich people necessarily.
Yeah.
Because they have a comfort and a buffer that allows them to not have to, face all of that. But the people that are living in like concentrated concrete jungles have to.
Okay.
And so but yeah.
So this critique you're saying wasn't necessarily a response to the fusion at this tournament, but I'm foreseeing that it probably will be, right?
It should be, but the students have to learn about that stuff and know what that process is. And I think that like a lot of times these teams get away with being able to fiat that process away. I'm sorry, but the people that have to live in these places, that have to be exposed to these things, don't get to fiat that shit away from their lives. So you shouldn't get to either.
Yeah. So if this wasn't necessarily deployed at this tournament, what were some sort of critical positions?
Oh no, that was deployed this tournament.
Oh, well, that was no. The fusion was. I'm talking about the response, right? Like it was that response.
Yeah. So I don't know who they really read that AF against necessarily. Okay. I knew that they read that AF in semis or quarters. One of them they lost topicality.
Oh, they lost on T.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I just think in general, it's just a fucking bad idea. Like if you think about from a perspective of people who have to live in the radius of that stuff.
All right. What were some critiques though that came out, affirmative and negative, at this tournament early in the season?
I mean, a lot of people had like indigenous critiques, like settler colonialism, or different types or different brands of coloniality. People had their anti-blackness stuff. They had their different arrays of ecologies, right? Like queer ecology, black ecology, critical ecology, deep ecology, right? All the ecologies forever and always. Ecofeminism, right? Black feminism, black eco-womanism, all of those things. A lot of those things came out in a lot of different teams. I think, of course, critiques of neoliberalism, because this is a market-based
Right.
instrument. So critiques of capitalism and neoliberalism were definitely big arguments here for both sides of the aisle, for traditional and critical teams.
All right. Did you see any particularly or hear about any particularly creative arguments at this tournament?
I mean, I think that I judged a Kansas team that had like a nice spin on talking about Black women and the labor that Black women have to do to keep spaces clean,
Oh,
and that understanding of cleanliness is always in the backs of Black women. I think that was a really good one that I saw, and I voted for it. And I think other people had interesting stuff. I know that we did like the Red New Deal, which is like
oh,
a more decolonial way of looking at the Green New Deal.
mm,
That's one of the arguments that they wanted to read. But, I'm sure there were other more innovative things out there. I didn't see too much of the case stuff, but,
okay.
but because I judge a lot of clash debates, to be
Oh,
honest,
yeah.
Northwestern. Like people in the negative are reading the K, and people in the affirmative are reading like a straight up policy F. Different amounts of like how those things are deployed, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that is a good start for the first tournament of the season, the first open tournament of the season, Northwestern. Devin, thank you for giving us an inside look on what was happening at the tournament, giving us a little bit of background. So in the future, yeah, we're going to be talking. Our next time we get together, we'll talk about Kentucky, huh? Yeah,
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll see you again.
You're welcome.